In case you're wondering, and I know you probably are, why I had the wrong song for the hymn of praise, I still had last week's songs marked in my hymnal. I knew you were waiting. I just knew. I know. I could sense it. I could sense the feeling in the room. I wonder why he had the wrong song. Now you know. I didn't think you'd be able to sleep tonight with that weighing on your mind and on your heart. So let's put it to rest and let it go. Our sermon today is based on the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 11 through 32, and that's on page 1245 in your pew Bible. If you'd like to follow along, I'll give you a moment to find that. While you're looking for that passage, if you are, I will let you know that our message today is titled, Where Would I Be? And this is the story, the parable that Jesus tells of the prodigal son. Now, if you're like me, maybe you always wondered what prodigal meant, and I looked it up in the dictionary, and prodigal is wasteful. Extravagant spending on wasteful living. And so this is about the prodigal son who did just that. We picked the story up where Jesus went on to say, there was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to him, Father, give me my share of the property now. So the man divided his property between his 2 sons. After a few days, the younger son sold his part of the property and left home with the money. He went to a country far away, where he wasted his money in reckless living. He spent everything he had. Then a severe famine spread over that country, and he was left without a thing. So he went to work for one of the citizens of that country, who sent him out to his farm to take care of the pigs. He wished he could fill himself with the bean pods the pigs ate, but no one gave him anything to eat. At last he came to his senses and said, All my father's hired workers have more than they can eat, and here I am about to starve. I will get up and go to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against God and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired workers. So he got up and started back to his father. He was still a long way from home when his father saw him. His heart was filled with pity, and he ran, threw his arms around his son, and kissed him. Father, the son said, I have sinned against God and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. But the father called his servants. Hurry, he said, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet. Then go and get the prize calf and kill it, and let us celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead, but now he is alive. He was lost, but now he has been found. And so the feasting began. In the meantime, the older son, who was out in the field, came back. When he came close to the house, he heard the music and the dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him, Hey, what's going on? Your brother has come back home, the servant answered, and your father has killed the prize calf because he got him back safe and sound. The older brother was so angry that he would not go into the house. So his father came out and begged him to come in. But he spoke back to his father. Look, all these years I have worked for you like a slave, and I have never disobeyed your orders. What have you given me? Not even a goat for me to have a feast with my friends. But this son of yours wasted all your property on prostitutes And when he comes back home, you kill the prize calf for him? My son, the father answered, you are always here with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be happy because your brother was dead, but now he is alive. He was lost, but now has been found. So ends the reading of our gospel lesson today. May God bless us this morning with eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to receive new blessings and insights for our journey with his Son Jesus in this modern world. So as fate would have it, or maybe one day, maybe it was planned, one day a group of very religious leaders called Pharisees and other teachers of the law happened to be standing by when Jesus started teaching a crowd that had gathered to hear what kind of new ideas Jesus might be sharing this time about life and God and heaven and other important matters. The word had spread about his new concepts, his new thoughts, his new way of looking at life and looking at religion and looking at God. Those very religious Jews, however, began criticizing Jesus when a whole bunch of tax collectors and other outcasts showed up. They practically sneered. This man welcomes outcasts and even eats with them. Well, Jesus heard what they said, and he responded by telling them 3 parables. The story of the lost sheep that got found, you're familiar with that one. The story of the lost coin that got found, you're familiar with that one. And today's story about the prodigal son. Now, the first 2 stories had a lot of similarity to each other. There was something that got lost, and that something then was found. Jesus shared these first two parables with the Pharisees and the religious leaders because people could easily relate to the joy that each person felt when they found what they had lost. But he also knew that one sheep would not have very much value in the Pharisees' eyes, neither would one coin, because they had plenty of coins, because they were the religious elite of the time, kind of like the elite preachers of our modern world today. However, Jesus also made the point about the joy that is felt by the angels and citizens of heaven when even just one sinner is found and repents. The reason that Jesus did that was because he knew that the ultra-righteous, self-righteous religious leaders saw no more value in a human being that they considered to be a sinner than they would see in a lowly animal or even an inanimate object as worthless as one simple coin. In this moment, though, Jesus put them on notice that God saw something worth loving and redeeming and rejoicing about even in people who had lost their way. Sometimes through no fault of their own and sometimes because of themselves. But let's look at the details of the third story that stand out in sharp contrast to the other stories in such a dramatic way that it would have been very hard for the religious leaders to miss what he was pointing out. The first obvious distinction is that the subject of this story is a person. Not only a person, but a person who intentionally makes his choices. The next important detail is that this man didn't just carelessly wander away from home like a lost sheep might do, but rather he thought things through and made a deliberate choice, a bad choice, to leave home and dad behind. We need to understand that at this point in the story, the religious leaders, and even the other people there gathered would start getting the hairs up on the back of their neck because of anger at this son. Because in the Jewish culture in that time and place, the family unit was considered of utmost importance, going all the way back to the Mosaic commandment to honor your father and your mother. To make matters worse, this young man in this parable even demanded his share of his inheritance before he left. This was almost unheard of and constituted what the Jewish people would have considered unforgivable. Because to them, it was as if this young man was saying to his father, "Look, you are as good as dead to me. Your money matters more to me than you do. So let me have it, and I'm out of here." Naturally, then he goes to some place far, far away where he squanders all of that money on wild and crazy living and ends up penniless in a pig pen with nothing to eat. Of course, we know that the father in this parable is God, and the wasteful son is the same kind of sinner that the Pharisees are so severely judging right now. We also know that the Father forgives the unforgivable sin committed by the Son. Which brings us to the question that I think Jesus wants everyone to ask themselves. You and me and everyone else out there in his world. I think Jesus wants us to ask this question. Where would I be? Where would I be without the grace of God? Would I be the tax collector, the prostitute, the leper? Would I be a thief, a scammer, a drug dealer? Would I be the holier-than-thou righteous person, so blind to my own sins that I feel justified in judging the sins of others and their worthlessness? Would I be the angry older brother, jealous that God had welcomed you home with arms wide open when I had spent my whole life serving him? Let you come in the doors of the sanctuary when you're old and ready to pass on and welcome you home? Would I be one of those people? Christian recording artist Peter Burton sings a song, "Where Would I Be?" You know, we talk about God winks. It was just last week after I submitted my information for this sermon, including the title, first time we ever heard this song on WCIC. Where would I be? The chorus goes like this. Where would I be if I didn't have Jesus pulling me out of that grave? Where would I be if I didn't have mercy pulling me away from my ways? I'd probably crash and burn, stay stuck down in that dirt like a prodigal running from home. Where would I be if I didn't have Jesus? Thank God, thank God, thank God, I'll never know. If you believe that you have received the grace of God in a way that you are no longer lost, but you've been found, you've been reclaimed, you've been redeemed, the Father has welcomed you back with open arms. He has run to meet you and embrace you and kiss you with love in his heart and forgiveness in his voice. By the grace of God and by the mercy of God, we are in a good place with God. Let's not spoil it like the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who saw themselves as paragons of virtue and didn't even recognize their own faults and flaws. Instead, let us see that all of our circumstances, good or bad, and all of our choices, good or bad, have brought us to our senses. we decided to return to our Father and ask Him to forgive us of everything that is wrong in us, instead of pointing out everything that was wrong in someone else. He has welcomed us with open arms, and He has planned a big party to celebrate our return. No longer do we need to ask the question, where would I be? Because thank God, we will never know where we would be, because we've already been found and reclaimed. Instead, I think God now wants us to ask a question of our neighbor. How can I help you find your way home? Amen. Our invitation hymn for today is on page 545. He leadeth me, O blessed thought. If there's anyone catching this message, either here or later at home, YouTube or Facebook, if it's caused you to ask questions, maybe want somebody to pray with or talk with, you can call the church, 309-699-8631. If I'm here, I'll pick up and we'll talk as long as we need to and pray together. You're invited to come to church with us any Sunday here in Creve Coeur at the corner of La Roche and Groveland Street, 604 Groveland. Our church starts at 10:15. We'd be more than happy to see you. Come on in. And if we're not the church that you're looking for, we'll try to help you find one that can help you. If I'm not able to answer, just leave me a message with your name and your phone number. Please speak clearly and slowly so that I can call you back, and then we can talk and pray. After our hymn of invitation and benediction, if you're able to remain standing, our exit verse is, "We are the church. Come, let us sing to the God who has welcomed us and reclaimed us."